which I guess makes the most interesting movie we watched tonight. Let me go ahead and get my screen share back on.
Yes.
The most unusual of the bunch, our classic movie of the week,
Yes.
The Road to El Dorado. Uh,
Yeah.
a prime example of, well, actually, it kind of fits in with our initial premise. Back in the 90s, everyone said, hey, Disney's making a lot of money with this whole Disney Renaissance thing. Why don't we make 2D animated musicals?
Yes, and that Katzenberg guy left Disney, and now he's with DreamWorks. So why
And
not?
and shoot, having Elton John saying "Can you hear the love tonight" worked so well for Lion King. Let's bring him in to be our musical narrator.
Yeah, and we'll get A-list actors to do all the voices, like Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh and Rosie Perez.
Hey, shut up! She's good and everything.
uh, but yeah.
But let's. So the actual movie here, it's a. I can kind of see why it struggled a bit because it's a parody of the old Bob Hope and Bing Crosby movies that were always like The Road to X.
Yeah. Yeah, and it when I was watching it, it reminded me of mentioned it to you. It reminded me of The Man Who Would Be King. Uh, Kind of a similar premise. Although in that movie there were soldiers in India, and then they go to Afghanistan
Mhm.
looking for treasure.
Right. In this one, there are a couple of Spaniards, although, of course, one of them speaks with a British accent, but
Yeah, and the other one's an American.
yeah.
And hey, creators outlet, good to see you, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Um, but yeah, and yeah, so the movie basically starts off. It's in what year was it? 15.
It's whenever Cortez failed out.
Yeah,
I'll
I
say
remember.
1530.
No, it was 1512 or 1516, something like that. I remember it being 30 years, almost 30 years after Columbus.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So basically, yeah, Cortez has basically gone out to the New World, and then we meet Miguel and I can never remember
Tulio.
Tulio, Miguel and Tulio, who are a pair of grifters who,
That's right. They make YouTube channels spouting opinions they don't have at all.
yeah, not play, they're no, they're not playing games with loaded dice.
Yeah. So we very early on get the movie is very good at introducing us to our two characters. Uh, Tulio, the black-haired one, played by Kevin Kline, who went on to become Mr. Fish Odor on Bob's Burgers, which I only realized partway through watching this movie, and I couldn't unhear it.
Yeah, yeah,
He is the smart one, but he is the planner. Meanwhile, Miguel, played by Kenneth Branagh, uh, he is kind of the whimsical, lighthearted, childlike one.
yeah. And yeah, because he always wants to go off on the adventures, um, and during their last little game, they managed to get a map, which is supposedly to El Dorado, the fabled city of gold.
Yep. Now, of course, you can start poking holes in that right away. If somebody had a real map to the city of gold, how did it get to Spain? And for that matter, why, when they get to El Dorado later, doesn't anybody seem to have ever seen a foreigner before?
Yeah,
And for that matter, um, why did they immediately believe that the map was legit? At least
yeah,
Tulio might have questioned it, but they think they kind of ended up deciding it was easy enough to escape on Cortez's ship to try and get their treasure. Spoiler alert, they were found out almost immediately.
yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Cortez was played by what's his name? Jim Cummings.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jim Cummings. Yeah, Darkwing Duck. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He is all over this movie in a bunch of minor roles. He must have been good buddies with DreamWorks early on because he also had some minor roles in Shrek and a few others.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he has a very distinct voice. I mean, that's yeah.
Yep. Which is funny for a guy who can actually do quite a few impressions and spends large sections of Disney cartoons talking to himself.
Yeah.
Since I believe he's Tigger and Pooh.
Yes. Yeah. Wasn't he also? He was also Negaduck, wasn't he? In
Yep.
Darkwing Duck. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he was also in Bonkers, a show that only I seem to remember at all. He was Bonkers and the uh, guy detective from the first season.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. He does a great job of sounding very cold and vicious. And it's like, actually, maybe vicious isn't the wrong term. He's just very uncaring. Like his first reaction in all situations is ultra violence, but he's very like dispassionate about it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you two broke onto my ship. We're going to land in Cuba, and you two are going to work in the
Sugar.
sugar plantations for the rest of your lives.
Yeah.
So, not
Yeah.
wanting this outcome, they decide to escape with the help of a war horse who had been put on half rations because he supposedly had to lose weight.
Yeah.
They accidentally lure the horse out in a funny scene with an apple,
Yeah.
and the three of them end up in a life raft that ends up washing ashore in somewhere in New World Adonia.
Yes. Yeah. I would imagine somewhere in probably Central America. I would guess.
Yeah, maybe the Yucatan because that would make sense for like how much rainforest there was, but also being close enough to go. I forget, was it Cortez who fought the Aztecs, or was that Pizarro?
It was Cortez.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so probably somewhere in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, and as they're journeying, they decide to just go on the journey to finding El Dorado using the map, and then along the way, that's when they encounter a native girl named Chell, and that's Rosie Perez.
Yes, and if you spend any time on Twitter in the company of people who draw characters, um, you will immediately recognize this character as I pull her up because boy, if you believe a lot of art, like if you just go by the amount of fan art of her on Twitter and other places, she was a lot of people's awakening.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get a good picture of her. Um, like she is definitely a fan service character.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely right around my alley.
See, I told you, I said, this is going to be in Daniel's genre of female character model.
Yeah.
Um, and so they show up and they manage. Chell was trying to get away with some artifact, and we find out that these two just happen to resemble ancient prophesied glyphs showing two gods riding a dragon. Well, if you've never seen a horse before, horse looks very dragonish.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where uh the man who would be king kind of came into it for me because in that movie the natives there thought that Sean Connery was a god.
Right. Which, I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, it is Sean Connery, so understandable mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so they think that they're the gods, and then well, one of them is like so they're basically like these two uh, tribal, I guess, chiefs or
Yeah.
clerics.
There's two distinct factions. It's
Yeah,
like you have the secular guy who seems to be the chief or head man or whatever you'd call him.
yeah,
And then you have the head priest. Head priest is like the most stereotypical Aztec priest possible. It's like He's always itching for a good human sacrifice.
Yes, he's very much the oh god, very much a radical what do I want to oh god, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fanatic.
Fanatic. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, really, yeah, definitely religious fanatic. Yeah, and then the tribal chief, who I actually looked it up. He was voiced by Edward James Olmos,
Oh,
who
okay.
most people will remember him as Adama from Battlestar Galactica. Um, but yeah, so they meet those two, and then and of course they start trying to act all godlike because they're trying to keep up the appearance because they want the gold.
Right. They've realized that there's a lot of gold in them, our town, and
Yeah,
so they're trying to scheme a way to get that gold back to Spain so they could live like kings.
yeah,
And
and yeah,
Chell is onto them. Like she's figured out very quickly that they aren't the least bit godly, but
yeah,
she wants her percentage and she'll help them out.
yeah, and and so yeah, so basically the rest of the movie is kind of and they well they need a ship, and they're like, well, we can build you a ship, it'll take a week. And they're like, we don't have a week. 3 days, okay. So they got to hang around this, they got to hang around El Dorado for the next 3 days and
Right.
try to,
Not get uncovered.
right, yeah, which
Um,
of
which is hard
course,
because the head priest is like super stoked to see a couple of gods. Like,
yeah.
hey, you want some blood yet?
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, then Miguel ends up going out into the town, even though Tulio told him not to do that.
Right. And he's very his childlike charm. He immediately connects with the local kids, and he and the horse and the kids play around and have fun. He's kind of a secondary character, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, and then Tulio and Chell end up really
They,
getting to know each other.
they go back home to Netflix and Chell, if you will.
Yeah,
What one of that is actually a good that's a good transition to one of the weirder aspects of this movie that was theoretically aimed at kids. This is a horny movie.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is.
Like, there's even a scene where everybody online interprets it as because of the angles they were laying at before they sat up in on camera. Um, Tulio might have been getting some mouth love.
Yeah.
At the very least, he looked very happy about whatever was happening off camera.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and so basically, what ends up happening is there. I will say with they get found out eventually.
Right, like that's fairly predictable.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
the weird thing is that was it just me? And I've actually seen this movie before.
mhm.
Um, I think I had the same thought on both viewings. Did it kind of feel like there were two endings?
It did. Yeah, they kind of pulled a James Cameron there, where they had a fake out climax. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's look at this from like a historical angle. Um, actually, okay. So the first angle that occurs to me is it is very unclear what the people in El Dorado are actually raising to eat because, like in an isolated chunk of jungle, no fields. It's not like they're eating entirely fish.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see any. I didn't see a whole lot of farming going on.
No. Um, Also, there isn't a culture in the Americas that could have built a boat that large, even given a lot of time.
Yeah.
Not because of any sort of inferiority or anything, just because of the materials available to them in the New World. They just hadn't developed the sort of metallurgy you would need to make a proper boat of that style,
Yeah. Yeah, you
of that
need
size.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of wood and a lot of metal that, yeah, you would need in that in a
Also, they wouldn't have had the concept of a sail that big
Right.
if they had a concept of a sail at all. But that's one of those like. There's also not a city called El Dorado, and there isn't a cute little cartoon armadillo that basically understands what people say to it.
Or an intelligent horse.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminded me of the horse. Like it's like the slacker brother of the horse from Tangled.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of did. Yeah.
But so just from like a production standpoint, we were talking earlier about the importance of character designs to communicate things about the characters. This movie's kind of impeccable that way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Uh, just from looking at the high priest, you know that he's not quite there.
Hmm.
His innocent jaguar warrior assistant, you immediately know that he's a big teddy bear.
Hmm.
You look at the secular priest, and you know that he's a bigger teddy bear.
Yeah.
You look at Tulio here on the left, and you know immediately that he's kind of actually kind of looks like a Guybrush Threepwood.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. With
Now
the
I look
hair.
at,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then Chell, you know, is kind of like a she's a seductress slash she has a cunning in her eyes,
Yeah.
and you can tell that Miguel is bright-eyed and innocent.
Yeah.
Okay, so call me crazy. Does this cover have the wrong hair on the color horse or the wrong color for the horse's mane and tail? I
I,
don't know that he had black for that.
I don't remember.
It looks wrong for some reason.
I'm trying to remember what the horse looked like. Let me go to Google. Run Dorado horse. Uh, yeah. Oh wait, no. Let's see.
Aha, he had gray.
Yeah, it was gray. Yeah.
Okay, so that's from the fun old days of when you could get wildly different or mildly different looking characters on the cover.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody seemed to care.
Yeah. Well, probably before it was, you know what, this cover might have been commissioned before the final draft of the movie was available.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so production side, so the 2D animation is mostly impeccable. There were a couple of
Yeah.
little things I noticed where it's like, okay, you're just using the horse's basic walk cycle because we're zoomed way out and you think we won't notice. Well, I'm enough of a grog grognard to notice, so there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree. Yeah, I thought the animation was really good. I actually miss this animation style.
yeah,
I wish they would go back to it.
yeah, it's very akin to like Disney's Hercules.
Yeah,
What do you call it? Atlantis, Lilo and Stitch.
yeah. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah,
Yeah, that's sort of like late Disney Renaissance style.
yeah, yeah.
Um, where it kind of suffers a bit is it did come out in the year 2000, and there are
Mhm.
a bunch of CGI elements, and whew,
It's rough in a few places. Yeah,
yeah. But I get why they used the technology. Like so, I'll say the difference between this one and the Disney movies that we've seen that use CGI, like Rescuers Down Under uses CGI. How do they use it? They use it to build a whole bunch of rectangular skyscrapers in New York, and they have a bunch of cars in the gloom.
hmm,
And like the attentive eye can tell that they're like low poly 3D models, but they're covered in like it's dark, it's gloomy. There's like a fog in the air. It's covered up well.
yeah, yeah,
The big statue from Aladdin that comes out, or the big cave mouth in Aladdin that comes out of the ground, very primitive CGI. First time they'd had a whole CGI element like that in a movie,
hmm,
apparently. I remember
hmm,
that from like interviews at the time.
uh,
Um, looks rough, but it was a dark creature that was filmed at night.
hmm. Yeah. So they're able to get away with it. Yeah,
Unfortunately, some of these badly done elements are right up front and center. Like they suddenly go from a boat full of uh, well drawn cartoon gold pieces to as they're going through the final climax as they're sailing the boat away. You suddenly have a bunch of Sega Saturn grade
Yeah, absolutely.
3D goblets,
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, like Sega Saturn, PS1, yeah, kind of, yeah, level of graphics.
sub N64.
Yeah,
And but they kind of had to do that because they had so many of these gold pieces, and they had to have the boat be CGI because of some of the 3D panning shots they were doing. So
yeah,
it was ambitious. They just didn't quite cover up the technical shortcomings.
yeah, yeah.
Then the last thing I'll say is that as far as a cloned Disney musical goes, like okay, The Prince of Egypt,
Mhm.
amazing movie,
Yeah.
memorable songs, um, gripping songs.
Mhm.
I kind of felt like with this one, the songs were just kind of filler.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt that way too. Yeah.
Like the opening main theme when they're first going through the jungle was kind of good, but like the songs where they sang, or the characters sang, were bad. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, not hatefully bad or anything. Just like okay, you're trying way too hard to do this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I kind of tuned it out. Tune it. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever.
At least it was always a visual treat.
Yeah.
But I would say that this one, so it was a bomb at the time, but it's since become a bit of a cult classic.
Mhm.
And if you spend any amount of time on Twitter or anywhere else online, you've seen people use gifs from this cartoon
Oh yeah.
all over the place. Like both,
Both. Yeah, yeah.
or like the scene where they're talking with the big cuddly chief, and he just looks shocked at them, and they're just smiling up at him innocently.
Yeah, yeah.
Like somebody tells the chief something awful, and he just mouth gapes. Like there are so many meme templates that have come out of this movie,
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
and it's obvious why because it's just smooth, characterful animation that communicates an emotion, which means that
Yeah.
you can more easily take it out of context to be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I remember when this movie came out. I was either late middle school, early high school, and
Mhm.
by that point, I was kind of like done with animated movies. Well, there's that Lord of the Rings movie that's coming out next year. I'm really looking forward to that one.
That's a better choice. Let's
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
The irony, of course, is that, and this is like the American age animation ghetto that anime is starting to break down a bit.
yeah,
Uh, in theory, this would actually be more appropriate for a middle schooler than for a general kid audience.
yeah,
Because again, like weirdly horny. Um,
yeah,
there's some, like there's some historical stuff that you might want to make sure the kids have context on before,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, they probably might want to know about Cortez and the
right,
Aztecs, and yeah,
right. Um, and I'm trying to look up something. Round two. I forget if this was a PG or a G movie. Like
I think it was PG.
it better have been because like that would
Yeah,
just be shocked if yeah PG good.
yeah, yeah,
That's okay. We were just talking about how weirdly horny this movie is. Rated a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Nice.
Ooh, nice. Yeah,
Which actually is just about the perfect rating.
yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
It's a thoroughly enjoyable movie. Probably don't need to see it more than once. You can probably look at your well actually no, you can just imagine better music during the some of the musical scenes if you get bored with it.
yeah,
But you kind of wish that like if this had been a Disney movie, you would have gotten an El Dorado the TV show like you did with Emperor's New Groove.
yeah,
Actually, you know what? You know what? That's the movie that this is the counterpart to over at Disney because they came out around a similar time even.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Um, and actually, let's see, what year did The Emperor's New Groove come out?
I want to say it was right around 2000.
Yeah, I think I was in high school. Emperor's New Groove came out in 2000. Yeah.
Hmm?
And what's funny about that is that this was probably started way after The Emperor's New Groove because The Emperor's New Groove famously went through a bunch of development hell.
Mm, yeah.
Like it changed concept several times. Like it originally was not a buddy comedy. It originally was a straightforward um, musical romance story about a prince who gets turned into a llama and falls in love with a local farmer girl.
Yeah.
Boy, did that change.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Wow.
But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyable movie, uh, and it's probably the most distinctive one we've reviewed today. So that's
Indeed. Yeah.
we'll call that a good sign.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think we've exhausted these topics for